And today, our journey comes to an end. At the beginning of that journey, we saw eager young disciples drop their nets and go and follow Jesus. They left everything behind, their loved ones, their income, their families, and they followed Jesus. On that journey, we saw Jesus' character. We saw a radical young rabbi who healed the sick, spoke with a Samaritan woman, and gave hope to the poor. But even more so, we learned who Jesus is. Jesus is the one who gives sight to the blind. Jesus is the one who offers us living water. Jesus is the one who raises Lazarus from the dead. Jesus is the Son of David. Jesus is the Messiah. Jesus is God's only Son. So today, like the crowds that gathered as Jesus entered Jerusalem, we waved our palm branches and spread them on the road before Jesus. Today is Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem. But it's also the day where it all fell apart. Not too long after Jesus' entry into Jerusalem, Jesus takes his eager disciples and he prepares a meal for them. It's a simple meal of bread and wine. And it's at this meal that we learn that one of Jesus' disciples is about to betray him. Judas. It only took 30 pieces of silver. Now, Judas was the first, but not the only disciple to fail Jesus that night. After the meal, Jesus went to Gethsemane and prayed. We saw Jesus implore his disciples to stay awake with him, but they were unable. They were too physically weak and spiritually weak. When morning came, a crowd had gathered and saw Jesus' betrayer kiss him on the cheek, a sign to the Romans so they would know who to arrest. They took Jesus away, and as they did, every single one of Jesus' disciples fled. Every single one of them deserted him. And you would think that of all people, that of all the disciples, at least Peter would stay by Jesus' side. Yet before the cock crowed, Peter had already denied Jesus 3 times. And so we come to the end of our journey today. A journey that went from beloved rabbi to a prophet to the Son of God, to a man betrayed, a man who was abandoned, and a man who was denied by his own disciples. Every single one of them left him. And this is where we leave him too, right? Right at this very spot, at the foot of the cross. You know, they say that every sermon should have a purpose statement or a takeaway or a connection to our lives. And I think if our sermon today had a purpose statement, it would be this: for each of us to witness Jesus on his journey, to come back and to follow him all the way from the beginning of his life and his ministry with the disciples, those eager young men who left their nets and followed him, to the healing of those he met on the road, to the curing of the blind man, to this awareness that this man is something greater, all the way on this journey to Jerusalem, where today we witness Jesus on his final leg of the journey to the cross. To come back on Good Friday and to see Jesus on that cross, to hear his last words, and to watch him breathe his last breath. And to decide for yourselves if this is a man worth following. This is where Jesus' journey ends for us. From here on out, where Jesus goes, we cannot follow. We can only stand to the side and witness and wait. Come and see what the Lord has done for you. Please rise for the hymn of the day found printed in your bulletins.